I am a
Talking about
huge believer in the power of the imagination, and everything really, like I said, everything emerges from the human imagination, and there's it should people go, oh, that's just your imagination. What a stupid thing to say. That's the stupidest thing to say in my estimation, because that's where it all is birthed from. It's you're imaging.
Greetings. Welcome back to your Blue Dreamer broadcast. This is your humble host, as always, Dr. I, coming through with another Blue Speak. Today I've got a very special guest, a Mr. Devon Whitaker, in the house. How you doing, sir? Excellent. So, thank you for joining me on the Blue Dreamer broadcast. I'm trying to remember exactly how long I've been following you through Instagram. I want to say it was like a recommendation when I was kind of just digging in music. I don't remember, but then I caught on to and it's been a while. It's been probably like 4 years. It's been a while. Because because I remember hearing some of your stuff. I'm gonna play one of the songs that I heard, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good song." When we get to the music, but it kind of reminded me, kind of gave me Portishead style vibes, and I think I kind of messaged you, and we kind of just went back and forth. But I definitely brought up Portishead. That's kind of what came to mind, just that real chill, groovy. A lot of atmosphere and that style. So I totally dug it. So, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
For sure, respect. So, I usually like to ask questions. I've got some points, and I like to play music. I always ask my artists when I talk to them, what influenced you, like musically and all of that. And but for me, I always like to get to the tip top, which is, where did music come into your life for you to where you actually felt something and was like, oh, I need to do something with this? What age? Whatever. How did music get into your bloodstream?
Right. For me, it happened. It happened really late in life. Actually, I was in college for psychology at the time,
Okay.
and I remember taking a fashion class because I thought, like, yeah, this is where all the girls are. You take it.
For sure.
And I was 2 weeks into the semester, and I just remember thinking, like, dude, there's just no way I could survive this. I'm not. So I got out of the class, and the only class that would take me 2 weeks into the semester, I needed an arts class, so the only class that would take me in the semester to keep me from getting that the drop was a guitar class.
Okay.
And the teacher's name was Mr. Phillips. He was like, hey, if you can have a guitar in class tomorrow, you are in. And I said, okay, yeah. I couldn't afford to get a drop,
Okay.
So I went to a pawn shop and I found some $70 classical acoustic nylon guitar, and
Right.
I showed up the next day to class. And he was going around the classroom, making sure everybody's guitar was tuned and putting everybody's in hands in position. He says, all right, class, you're going to strum your first chord today. 2 weeks of training, you're going to strum today.
Wow.
So he had everybody's hands in position, and he says, all right, 3, 2, 1, strum. And 24 students in this small room strummed an E minor chord at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it was just because if it was a small room or it was 20 something kids who did it all at the same time, but it resonated in me. And I knew right there and then that for the first time in my life, I wanted something for myself, and I was going to be a musician. So it was so late in life. It wasn't something that I had any designs on
Wow.
previously. No interests in it. Not singing. Nothing. Nothing. I had no interest in all of it. But it's just kind of proof that when you ask the universe for a thing, it gives you the opportunity to have it. You just kind of have to surrender to it. So
Right. Yeah, and all
yeah.
this just to try to meet girls, and then and then you get the guitar, you're like, maybe I could do it with this.
We will do this instead. Yeah, dude. That's exactly what it was like.
Respect. Nice. Yeah. So that was it. It was basically you're kind of not taking lessons, but like, taking this course because out of necessity in a sense, but then you're like, oh, okay, I caught something out of this.
Yeah, man, dude. I wish the story was that I stayed in school and got a degree, but I took the fast lane into doing guitar session work after that. My
Okay.
brother, he started getting into music as well, and he started doing like R&B and hip hop production stuff. So we ended up getting to do some stuff for like TDE, Death Row. We got to do a bunch of stuff like that, and it
Wow.
was all of a sudden it was like you're doing stuff like that. But most of it was like, if I'm being 100% honest, like 99% of it was for just local MCs,
Okay.
rappers, singers. So the bulk of your work was kind of coming from that. But I was making a pretty decent living off of it. By no stretch of the imagination enough, but it was enough for me to be like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pursue this. So it was a wild run, man, and it just kind of just moved into all of these other facets of art. And
And how long had you been playing once you got into that?
so I think total now, I've been playing for probably about I would say 15 years. So
Okay.
I've been at it for about 16 years.
Yeah. But once you got into guitar, how long after that did you get into the studio stuff? How long had you
Um,
been playing?
Probably a good 2 years,
Oh,
maybe two.
wow. Pretty,
Well, yeah, like pretty quick. But
wow.
to be fair, a lot of hip hop stuff is, in terms of guitar, it's so much more simple than you would think.
Right.
Like we're used as musicians, we're so used to like building out the entirety of a song off of the back of like this chord progression that has to ultimately go to another chord progression. But in hip hop, like an entire song could just be an 808 and a single guitar riff.
Right.
Entire fucking song
Right.
can literally just be that. So it's just the barrier to entry at that time was just a lot more thin than it is now. And especially being a guitarist of color, you were afforded. It was easier to kind of get into those spaces in the R&B and hip hop field.
Mhm.
There wasn't a lot of black guitarists at the time, and you know, being able to kind of like it was a lot easier to slide in at that time. So
Right. Gave you an in, basically. Like he must know what he's doing. You're like, pretty close, pretty close.
exactly it. Yeah. So we just slid in there.
Nice.
And yeah, and dude, and everything else, all of the craziest shit just kind of just spurred off from that. But yeah, that's how it started.
So what influenced you, in that early parts? How did you start kind of creating your style? Because to me right now, you definitely have a style. I can hear it in your music, you know. And so once you kind of got into it and started even working, what started molding you into what, like, okay, I gotta kind of find a pinpoint and then get it down, whittle it down to a point. What kind of first was it, just hip hop, or was that the gig?
Um, it was definitely a lot of kind of like R&B stuff, but the thing with R&B is like so much of it from like the 70s and things like that.
Yeah.
Those were the things guitar wise that was kind of like prevalent then and even still now.
Hmm.
It did kind of put me in a precarious situation where I had to kind of look back on things and try it there. And furthermore, like too, it was originally like I was researching all of these things from like the 60s and the 70s
Right.
because I wanted to be a better musician and also to be more viable to what the marketplace required. Now, I had spent no time listening to even 90s rock. I never listened to 90s rock and roll. So when it was time for me to start looking back to 60s kind of soul and funk and things like that, it ends up taking you into learning about like, bands of that time like The Doors, Led Zeppelin, and then growing up, Hendrix was something that actually played in my house.
Hmm.
I didn't know that Hendrix was considered rock until like I had started playing guitar like it was rock and roll until then. I just thought it was I just thought it was music. So it was really interesting because as trying to be a student of music, it put me in a lane to where I had to learn, about a lot of these psychedelic bands from that time, and
Hmm.
then seeing that there is such a close musicality to from like the Isley Brothers, the Bee Gees, and Al Green. Like there's so much crossover, and even Hendrix, because Hendrix started with like Little Richard and things like that. Once you start seeing that, you start picking up the patterns, and then you start listening to psychedelic rock stuff, and you're starting to learn that like no, these are jazz chords. Wow, these are jazz chords. That's a jazz riff right there. That's a funk riff right there. But they put effects on it and things like that. And I wanted to stand out as a guitarist, so I thought that's when I'll start implementing guitar effect pedals and things
Hmm.
like into doing like funk riffs or jazz riffs, but because like in post production the producer was always adding these effects after the fact anyway. So I thought, let me just get those on my board already and be making the sounds already. That'll make me viable to more producers, not just the my brother and our friends who were doing it, but now maybe I can make a serious go of this and like create a style of my own if I do these standard things but add these other elements to it. So that was ultimately the thing that kind of started me down this whole like crazy effects pedal thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
can tell you're definitely a connoisseur of pedals, man. you know?
and dude, it's a lot wilder than that. Like I'm up here in Northern California, and at the time my son was being born, and
Mhm.
we were driving down to Los Angeles every weekend, and we would hold up in these little studios, and we would. So the way the gigs worked is you go to a studio in North Hollywood or whatever. And most of these studios, they don't even look like music studios. They're just in industrial areas. They look like rundown buildings, but you go around the back and then you go through some security doors and it's these lavish studios. Well, what we would do is we would go down there and we'd only get paid like a few $100 each, but we would go in there and we would hold up in the studios there and whatever artists would come through, we would work with them. We would play music, and if they liked the music that we made with them, then we would work out a deal on the back end later.
Nice.
But as once my son was being born, it was like I can't be driving down to LA every weekend for $200, $250 every weekend. It's like and on the times when it was my turn to drive and I had to fill this gas tank, it's just like this really isn't viable.
Right.
my wife gave me the idea of starting get on Instagram and get on Facebook and start making videos of yourself playing guitar, and you can at the very least start doing remote gigs. So I started playing guitar on Instagram, just me playing guitar, and a guitar pedal company reached out to me, first ever,
Wow.
and they said, if we give you this guitar pedal, can you make a 30-second video for us? And I was like, oh, sure, yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to be equal to the task, so I looked up all kind of crazy stop motion stuff and just all kind of shit. And I'm filming this with my phone. And I filmed this video, and the video actually went viral. So
Wow.
viral, in fact, that other guitar companies, amp companies, guitar pedal companies were reaching out to me to make videos for their stuff. Next thing you know, I start charging these guys just as a means of like a deterrent, and they're paying. So I was able to leave my job and just make these videos of me demoing people's pedals and stuff like that. And then that ended up moving into film. All of a sudden, a friend of mine who is a musician was like, "Hey, I work in film. If you do this job with me, it's enough to get you a cinema camera, man. You can get a cinema camera." And I'm like, "What do I need a cinema camera, man? I'm doing stuff on my phone, and this is perfectly fine."
Wow.
I took the gig with him, got the camera. Next thing you know, I'm shooting music videos. And then that went from like shooting music videos to shooting TV shows and shooting like films and documentaries. And and then making my own music videos, which ultimately was the thing that kind of just really started to put me on the map, making my own videos and stuff like that. So,
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. That's wow. That's awesome. I love that.
now it's long. I apologize. It's
No,
such
no,
a long.
no. You're good. You're good. It's a talk show. You know, we're good. So I mean, did they send you gear like just to demo and you had to send it back, or did they were they actually just
Oh,
sending you
no,
gear?
so the deal was always there was a few instances where they wanted it back. But when I did gigs for like the guitar magazines
Mm,
and stuff like that, now they would want the gear back. But all of the other stuff where it was working straight with the builders, the boutique builders and stuff like that. No, the deal was you keep the pedal and then you get whatever your rate is, whatever you're asking for,
yeah.
wise. And it wasn't much. It was usually like $200-300 plus the item itself. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but ultimately doing that not only sharpened my musical prowess because like you have to when you're demoing those pedals or those guitars, you're making music as it pertains to that piece of gear. It's
Right.
all new music. It's not something where it's like you just play the same thing over and over.
Right.
So it really put me in like this songwriting mode, and it's like, and even now, it's like, we're working on a big album right now, and it was just like, you've got so many influences to kind of draw from, or musically, like I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
So it's just because of all of those things.
That's awesome. What was the first company that came to you?
Cooper Effects.
Okay.
Cooper Effects was the first company, and they had this pedal called the Gen Loss. It's funny. It it's that pedal stays on my desk
Nice.
even to this day. Like it stays on my desk as a reminder that like it was that thing that was ultimately the thing that really really changed my life.
Yeah.
And it was and I had no intention of becoming a musician for the sake of making demo videos. It sounds so silly, so ridiculous. But it's just like, it's the proof that when you ask the universe for a thing, it's like we see the finish line without always realizing, the path that we're supposed to take to get there. So it's just like for me, it was these silly videos, and I again had no interest. I had never had any interest in video, Never had any interest in any
Wow,
of that.
that's so interesting, man. That's so and I mean, obviously the opportunity presented itself, and you were just like, okay, well, time to put on my snorkel gear and get in the water, right? You know, like,
Oh, well, yeah, some deep swim and shit. But you know, that's the thing, though. And as long as I've been doing this music thing, and I mean, no matter how good I get at video stuff,
yeah,
um, I love video, but like music's the love. That's the thing. That's the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life.
yeah. How long
But
ago were you approached for the pedals for the?
hmm,
How long ago was that? Would you say?
maybe it was like maybe 6 or 8 years ago,
Okay.
something. Maybe I think
I just
something.
asked because I just feel like now the boutique pedal market is so like there's so many boutique makers now. Like, you
Mhm.
know, I've been a gearhead forever. You know, I started playing when I was 14 years old, and I've always just paid attention. You know, I'm not the most knowledgeable, but you know, I've seen growth in certain areas of playing guitar and music. And, you know, I just noticed that there's so many, it's like saturated with just so many now, especially now. It's crazy. You know, I'll go to this local shop not too far and they just got a whole wall and it's just like, wow, like how many chorus, how many delays, how many can you make? And now to me it even just seems like it's the casing that they're focusing on. Just make it look pretty, make it look dope, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy that one. And it's just very interesting, you know. It's crazy to see, and to see that evolution to where I used to use like, you know, the DS1 Boss distortion orange pedal and that was it. And now they've got pictures and they make them look like pinball machines, and you know, it's amazing. And I love it. I respect the art, you know, but it's very interesting how much there is now out there. You know, it's crazy. I've seen the whole thing happen, you know.
Yeah, and it's not relegated exclusively to just music gear. There's a lot more musicians out there
Right.
too. So it's like, because there is such a great need from musicians, and for musicians, that like you're starting to see that like now it's like there's so much money to be made off of the back of art,
Right.
and it's like so people have figured out ways to kind of monetize it in that. And in most instances too, you're learning that a lot of these boutique builders, they're musicians themselves, and they've figured out a way to make it.
Right.
So it's a wild thing though. But the more you kind of like do this thing, and I'm sure you can even attest to it, it's just like, it's you just never know, man.
Right.
The road to being a good musician, being really ultimately being a good artist is it can be tumultuous, but it's also like there's just so much uncertainty in it. It's not a linear line, it's not a race either, too.
Right.
It's like it can happen late in life and it can happen early in life. And the idea that ageism used to be a thing until, like, I would say, like the mid part of the 2000s,
Hmm.
with social media and people's ability to create content and to curate an audience,
Yeah.
like, there is no reason for artists to stop any longer, so it's just you get into this thing and you can literally just do it for the rest of your life, and why not?
Yeah.
Why not? you know
And the direct connection line now is so short now. You know, it's the that world has shrunk, you know, in a way, like, especially, you know, with the music industry and all. You know, I just I constantly say that it's dying, you know, as far as major label type style, you know.
hmm
It's fleeting, I would say, you know, but you know, with the internet and with social media connections, and you know, it it just seems to be independent, more independently. People can be more independently capable of doing what they really want to do.
Right. No, you're definitely right. You're definitely right. It's just I think the only downside to there not being any gatekeepers any longer, because I mean there is a celebration to be had for the fact that the old guard, which is the labels, are kind of for the most part kind of just slowly but surely kind of going away.
Right.
But they were the gatekeepers for what was good, and what wasn't.
Right.
And while it's great that that's not there anymore, it also means that the market is going to be saturated with anyone, because now the barrier to entry is paper thin. Like anybody who thinks of themselves as a musician is just like, I can make music right now and just put it out because fucking yeah, sure, I'm gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's a difference between those people who can easily monetize the music because like they figured out a way, like, oh, this is the business that I'm going to get into. There's a difference between those types of artists and the people who do this thing because like there's nothing else for them to do. Like, not that there's nothing else for them to do, it's just that this is the only thing for them. Like if I don't put my hands on my guitar or work on a song or do this or create something, then
Mm-hmm.
like no purpose for me now. So that is the problem, where there is now, because there is no gatekeepers, it's like you're in direct competition with somebody who's probably likely a much better businessman than you are, but you're a better artist. So
Sure.
it's like, yeah, so there's the tyranny that existed within the labels is like, that's it's going away, but at the same time though, it is no man's land. So
Yeah, Wild West, man. And I feel like the avenues of opportunity are there. They're present. You just gotta. It's adjusting with the times as well. And I mean, because I see kids that are 8 years old just shredding, and I see them like, wow, that's amazing, like that's crazy, and I'm jealous. But whatever. That's cool. That kid's gonna grow up to be a genius and a mad scientist, and that's cool. But I like what I do too. So, it's I'm not competitive at all, not at all. And I appreciate the mass opportunities. The greatness of there is a lot of artists, and I do these mixes, along with my interviews. That's kind of what I do. And I'm digging, I was a DJ for years, actually digging vinyl and, rocking crates and turntables. And, I did that for a while just because I love hip hop, and hip hop culture. So I did it just as much as I was a rock metal guitarist. I did that too, and it's all part of the same thing to me. But so when I do these diggings now, it's all digital, but still I'm just finding like there's so much music out there. It can be overwhelming, but I know exactly what I'm looking for when I look. So that makes it easier for me. I just see it as like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, "Ooh, I got all this to look through," because I
right.
know exactly what I'm looking for.
Right. Like, I mean, your sense of taste will always kind of like guide you to whatever the next thing is, regardless to the level of saturation that exists out there. And it's the same thing for like the audience out there at large. Like, if you make the type of music that they like, inevitably they will find you.
Right.
And the question is really ultimately when, and are you still going to be in it when they find you? Because see, that's the biggest thing. Authenticity and attrition are like really ultimately the deciding factors between like, who is great and who is known and who isn't ultimately. Because every so often a new listener or a new fan will stumble on you and they'll see something that they like, right? But if you haven't been keeping up with the work, if you haven't been showing up every day, then like you're gonna miss the opportunity to be like, hey, we got another song out there. Or if you didn't put that next album out or that next art piece out or whatever it was, whatever your artistic endeavor is, consistency is so fucking important because when that fan comes across you and they're like, damn, they got this one track. Okay, cool. I love this track. All right, well, all right, next. And then like there's not
Right.
for them. It's just like we have to understand as artists that the commodity is not the art. The commodity is everything else. The art is the bait to reel them in, right? And then the ask comes, and that's where you're selling the commodity.
Right.
Like you, for example, right? Like you do these, you're a musician, but you also do podcasts and
Yeah.
stuff like. You also do DJ stuff, right? So it's just it takes all of those things, right? So it's that, and you've found a way to be consistent, right? Like you can do these podcasts, you like talking to people, you like learning about them, and you like sharing the experience that is art with them. So it's like this is a way for you to still consistently be in it, and it's not, while there is a substantial amount of work involved in this, it's not the kind of shit where it's like, like you've like some day job type of thing, where it's just so hard and brutal and this and that. But it's all about just figuring out a way to stay consistent with it, to be there, to still show up every single day. And it's hard, man. And like, and I know that it's heartbreaking for artists, to constantly show up, because it's like you show up and like sometimes, someone doesn't knock at the door and you're still there, and it's a heartbreaking thing. But we have to kind of get over that idea of like that no one will come, because inevitably they will. And once you got them, they're there. So it's like, you can go a month without actually making a new fan. You can go 6 months without making a new fan. But that's where the work comes in. So the love is what generates the art. But understanding that with that love comes the need to do the work. And the
Right.
work is show up every day and be there and figure out a way to be consistent in it. So,
Yeah, and I mean, it just what you're saying now makes me think of, like I said, I've been playing since I was 14 years old. I joined a band when I was like 16 in high school, all good friends of mine, and played for a long time, and did kind of different iterations of that, and played with other people and throughout the years. But for me, like my struggle was always, I always felt in myself that I was the most dedicated. I was the one that wanted to really push, And I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day, and I told him, I was like, I remember when I was like one summer when I was probably like 16, 17, and I kind of questioned. I was sitting there with a rig and, I had nice guitars and I had all the gear, and I was just like, do I really want to give everything to this? Like, am I really ready to kind of dedicate? And I'm a teenager, and I'm just like, yes, in a way. But then I was like, I kind of doubted myself, and ever since then, it always pops in my head, like, well, remember that time? Well, remember how you felt, But and I don't continue to do it to prove anything to myself. It's just I'm still learning even now, and that's why I do this, and that's why I do like to connect with people, and like you said, it's all part of it's the art that drives me, not attention. Not, I mean, of course, I want my art to get attention, but not in any egotistical way. It's the love of the art, love of the music. That's what drives me, especially now in my older age. I'm like, of course, So this is just an avenue that's more accessible to me in my own without relying on anybody else.
right,
And
right.
that's what I feel I've always kind of struggled with. That's why I say, like, I've always been the one that was the most driven and tried to be in a band, but things fell apart. I tried to do this and things fell apart. I was in a hip hop duo one time, and I was making all the beats and I was singing hooks, and like the dude I was working with just got big headed, and he's like, I can do this myself. I said, all right. And I erased everything. I was like, good luck. Peace. Like, that's just me. I'm like, fine. Like, I'm willing to work. But if you want to be like that about it, it's, I don't know. I don't know if it was jealousy or I have no idea. But I just, things like that, those are the things that I've always struggled with, in a way.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing, though. A lot of people think that the life of an artist is easy, you know, especially for those who don't necessarily have the capacity to create. Like, I mean, the whole thing is kind of, you know, looked upon in such a romantic way.
Right.
But like, you know, there's a lot of infighting, you know, amongst artists. There's competition amongst artists, but then also though too, like, you know, there is, you put so many hours into this thing, you know, to get good at it, just that alone, you know, we're not even talking about the amount of hours it takes to write a song, to produce a song, not even the monetary investment, but you put so much time into this thing. And the misconception is that, like, you know, something beautiful is going to come out immediate, or that there isn't going to be, you know, any friction. But it's like you can't have maturation without the friction, you know, like you will not be the caliber of musician you are if you didn't have to deal with those duds. You
Yeah.
know, I never wanted to be a singer in a band. I never wanted to be a videographer. I never wanted to do any of these. I thought for sure when I first started playing guitar, I envisioned myself as being like a cool guitar player who would be in the back, who kind of hang in the back and just playing like cool, some spooky shit or fucking whatever. I thought that that's who I was going to be. I thought I was going to be the cool, mysterious guy. But every band that I was in started falling off, man. Like it kept falling off and falling apart and falling apart. And I finally joined a band, and we were I think maybe it was my fourth band or something, third or fourth band, and nobody wanted to sing. And I've never had an interest in singing. I don't even like talking publicly. I don't even like opening my mouth.
Sure.
And I was and it was like, come on, you got to do it. They're like, you got to do it. So I started doing it, and I started taking singing lessons, and I started doing all of the things. But it was because those people stopped showing up. It was because all of those bands stopped working, you know. And then if we're really talking about it, like I got into the whole Instagram thing and Facebook shit because the jobs weren't great. It's just we have to realize as artists that like bad times only present opportunities to grow, definitively grow, not just like in the whole like you're gonna be better for this. No, no, but really seriously, like think about those times somebody said no to you and you fucking went back home and practiced your ass off. Think about those times when like the band this guy dropped out and you have to learn his fucking parts. Think about all of those times, right? And it's like, what did that do? What did that do? And it pushed you to be who you are now. It forced you to be the caliber of musician you are. I am thankful to God. I'm thankful to all of those people who one told me I couldn't do it. I'm thankful for those people who decided to quit the bands. I'm grateful for every single one of those fucked up instances, bearing in mind that every one of them was a heartbreak. Every one of them is still a scar on my heart. But still, in light of all of that, it forced me to be the musician that I am today. And it's not to say that I'm beyond reproach and that I still am not learning things and I'm a virtuoso. By no stretch of the imagination is that the case. But I can say that I can hold my own in any creative space. Any creative space. I don't care what it is.
For sure.
Guitar, singing, if it's making if short films, I don't care. But it is because of it's off of the back of all of those terrible instances, those naysayers and no's. So it's like when you have those moments as an artist, and artists are out there, whoever's listening to this, and they're showing up constantly and people aren't knocking at that door, that is an opportunity to be better. That is an opportunity to be practicing. That's an opportunity, if we're talking about social media, making sure you're engaging with your followership.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that you can be using these no's as an opportunity to get that yes at the end. So it's a lot of shit like that, man. So yeah, like, you know, if you didn't have all of those experiences, if you didn't, you wouldn't be here doing a podcast today by yourself. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, you'd still be beholden to the group. But now you figured out a way for you to thrive.
Right.
And still get to showcase your music and you still get to do the thing. So it's just like, just going all the way back to the very thing. It's just like we ask the universe, especially as artists, for a thing without realizing that the path to it isn't necessarily paved in gold. It means sometimes you got to take some back streets, but you get there,
Right.
and that's the thing.
Yeah, the struggle always, opens up opportunities and for growth. I definitely agree with that. And hindsight is 2020, but I definitely see, I reflect on a lot of the shit that I went through and feel I appreciate it, especially now that I'm doing something that is consistent, as long as I want it to be. And that's how I see it, and so in that I can reflect and enjoy even the moments of struggle to say, oh, well, that brought me up to where I am now. And I can't prove any of that to anyone but myself, and that's how I see it. And I want to impress myself with my love for the art. That's what I'm doing now, and there's nothing greater than that to me, and that's why I appreciate people like you and people that I have talked to and people that I will talk to in the future. I know, because it's still me picking the songs for the DJ set. That's what it is. It's my eyes and my ears and my heart and my thoughts and my mind and my soul. That's, I feel what I feel, and that's all I'm trying to represent. I'm not trying to be popular. I'm not trying to do anything like that. I don't care. It's like I see, just as an example, I see how I post on Instagram, and like, I don't use it as a gauge, but I see, and it's like I'll post in my feed something, my shows or whatever, and I see I get these hits, but then I get more hits off reels, and then people share off that, and I'm just like, oh, that's interesting, but I don't rely on it. I really don't want to. I don't want to rely on it. I want to rely on me to get it out there. Like I've got that old school mentality. I mean, I know that it's just another opportunity, another device to get the message out there, to get the sound out there. But I'm also just still, I've only been doing this since January. I started a podcast with a friend of mine last year, and literally the whole year up until December, and then he kind of quit on me. So then in January, I decided to start doing this, and all I wanted to focus on was just music, nothing else. And that's what I kind of said, okay, that's how I'm going to approach it now. So I've been doing this since January, and it's going pretty good. I had a little while where I had to move out, and, I didn't record for like 2 months, but now again, the opportunities are starting to present themselves again. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, 2.0, let's go. This is the next step. So, I respect that, man. I love that.
Yeah, man, dude, that's all part of the process, brother.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I dig it. I've always have, because being creative to me is the ultimate expression, and to do it the way that I want to do it with my eyes and my vision, that's even more so. It warms my heart more so than, trying to impress anyone. It's not about that. I don't know if it's just me getting older, and, I have a kid now, and I see things in her that are coming from me. She's little me, and I'm like, damn, she's gonna do the same shit. I'm like, fuck yeah. I was like, that's dope. I love that. So even that's even more worth it than any of the bullshit before. So it's a growth thing, and it always is. And I always say music is infinite. Music will never end. We will end before music ends. There is no end to music. And I wonder, I think sometimes I'm just like, why don't I ever get sick of music? Never, like, even my own music, I'll write shit and I'm like, well, that's pretty dope. Okay. How'd I do that? And I'm still doing it. Okay. Like, I'm not tired. I don't get tired of it. It's infinite, you know?
Yeah, man. That's when you know. That's when you know, like you're doing it. You're doing it for the love of the thing, and it's like when you realize that. that is the fuel source, then maturation can't help but happen, you know. And it's just like we can all get to that finish line, you know. For some of us it's going to happen sooner, for some of us it's going to happen later. But like, if you just stick with it, you know, whatever it is, you know, that's really it, man. You just do the shit every day. That's
Yeah.
it.
And just feel it, you know, if anybody's listening and looking for advice, but that's what I would say. Just feel it. You got to feel it. You got to feel yourself. You know, you got to be your number one fan. You know I am. so, so I saw you posted a video earlier. You playing a Fender with the gold foil pickups.
Yeah, a little jazz master, baby. Little
Yeah,
special edition. Yeah. Yeah, that's the new whip. I'm
nice.
yeah, I'm normally a Strat guy,
Okay.
but saw this thing, I saw the Bigsby, and I was just like, you know what? It's time for something else. I've had the same. I've had a ton of guitars, but my Blonde 60th anniversary U.S. Stratocaster has been my main guitar for like, I don't know. I think it's been like 10, 10 years, 12 years, something like that. I've had it
Wow.
for wow. It's been my main guitar. So I was like, you know what? I deserve to have like a something different, with something that's slightly different. And the gold foil pickups are a lot more hot. They're hotter than the
Single coils.
single coils. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like, and then they were just. I'm a big fan of the old, the Silvertone, and
Yeah.
the K guitars, and all of those. So you know,
You like the
that,
twang. You like twang.
yeah, I just love that vintage kind of beat up kind of thing. So it was really cool that they kind of made that, to they did that in homage of the old Silvertone knockoff Jazzmasters, because when Sears and Roebuck started making their Jazzmaster,
Yeah.
it was a knockoff of Fender's Jazzmaster, and they put the gold foil pickup. So what Fender did was, they kind of repaid them back by paying homage to those who paid homage to them, and having this weird special anniversary gold foil pickup one. So it was
Did
like I saw.
you just got it?
No, I've had it for like, I think I've had it for a few months. I've
Okay,
had it
but
for
you bought it brand new.
yeah.
Oh, so they
Mm.
make it custom. They make it like that. It's not custom. It's just like, I mean, it's a custom edition, obviously, but it's
Exactly. Yeah, it's a limited edition, and yeah, limited edition. So I didn't do that. I did do a few things to it, change out the knobs and
sure
things like that, and
aesthetic shit.
aesthetic shit. Yeah, but for the most part, though, no,
That thing
that's
was
it.
sexy, man. Jesus, I saw that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, she's the girl. That's the one.
Yeah, I got two jazz masters, both Japanese. I'm partial to Japanese women, so yeah, I got a black one I call Batman because it's all blacked out with red trim, and then the Fender logo's red. And then
No,
I got a blue one that I bought a couple of years ago, and that thing, it's got the roasted maple neck, and it's got the matching headstock color to the body, and I do modifications, not myself, but I always change the. I don't like twang. I always played Les Pauls, so I'm a humbucker guy. I always was into humbuckers. But one day I was selling one of my guitars, one of my Les Pauls, and this dude was like, "Would you want to trade for a Jazzmaster?" And I was like surf, like twang. I was like, "Ooh." I was like, "Fuck it, I wanted something different." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Sure. And one of my all-time favorite guitarists always played Fender. He always played Jazzmasters, and so I was it was with him too in a way. I was like, all right, I want to see what this dude was always talking about. And so I got one, and I loved it. I haven't gone back since. I bought those two. And, I had them shipped from Japan, and that's it. That's all I have now. I even just recently traded a Mustang that I purchased a couple years ago for this new podcast setup that I have, and I was like, all right, if I like, I'd rather barter than, for it's all the same shit to me. So, But yeah, my I love Jazzmasters. Now I'm like, this is I'm done. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm gonna they're gonna be buried with me. They're gonna be in the casket. Man. Like, one under each arm, bro. Just like, all right, let's go. Lower me down. Let's go.
Oh man, dude, I love them. I love them. I really do. I think if I were to get a third guitar, if I were to get another guitar that I know that is going to be in the studio, that's going to be on the road, I don't know. I might go Jazz Master.
Yeah.
It have to either double up on one of them and have to double up on the Strat or double up on the Jazz Master. I mean, I've got a shit ton of other guitars, but I got to be real with myself. I'm the Strat guy, but now this Jazz Master is
Yeah.
kind of it's nice, but it's like it's still right there though, right? Like you get a little bit of the twang from kind of like almost Telly-esque, but then you get like the body of the Strat, and it's just like with the tone knob, like if you don't want that twang, you can kind of roll it off a little bit easier. But it's there when you want to be able to like really kind of break through something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice. This one though is like it's fucking heavy though. It's so
Yeah, that's what I like. I like them heavy. I like fat asses and thick necks, man. That's what I like. I like them because I always play Les Pauls, so they're heavy, man. It's
oh
like, you
yeah,
know what I'm
those are
saying? So
yeah.
my Jazz Masters are a little bit lighter, but the first one I bought, the blue one, the neck is just it's like a baseball bat, and I was like, oh, that's what because I play heavy and I play heavy handed and a lot of open chords. So I like to just beat the shit out of them, and ring them out. But no, this thing, ugh, I swear to God, it's like the perfect guitar, dude. Every time I play it, it never goes out of tune. It it takes my beatings and it's just like, oh, come on, give me more, and I'm like, damn, girl, let's go. Like you know it's just and I just love the way to me I always see them and I think like 65 Ford Mustang, like they're just classy looking to me, and I love it. I'm like, oh, hooked. I'm a Beach Boys dude, so let's go, dude. You know I dig it. I dig it. So I wanted to ask you this too, like, so with your video, with your video make, I'd say filmmaking, but it's just, um, do you record on film, or is everything digital? No, digital. Okay,
Everything is digital. Film is really I
expensive,
can't.
expensive.
It's so expensive.
Yeah,
It's around like the total process for like acquiring the film and then like getting it, treated. You're looking at like around like 400 to $600 for every 15 minutes.
wow,
You
that's
know,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. It's such an expensive thing. So
Yeah,
you know I tried film, and but it's wild. And then likewise too, it's there's that you you don't know if you got the shot or not,
right.
you know and when you only have 15 minutes for a reel, it's like you don't do 2 3 takes of things. It's just
Yep.
and you can only really do that for unless you're doing like Panavision, or you're doing the bigger things. You're really shooting Super 16, Super 8 film, and it's like it's just the type of client that wants that is
Right.
usually music videos and stuff like that. So it does kind of pigeonhole you. You're kind of relegated to that thing, and it's so much more headache than it's actually worth. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the aesthetic of film. I just do. And even like with
Same.
regard to music, I love um, you know I love tape.
Hmm.
I'll master our album to a little reel to reel. It's only a half-inch tape, but like I'll bounce it down to that and do that, and that's the way that I get a lot of the kind of warm analog sounds and that nice compression. But Yeah, man, dude. If I could do tape, if I could afford it, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. You'd have to get funded, obviously. Yeah, right. You'd have to be backed big time. So what I wanted to ask, like, what's your perspective, music and film, or videos, like what are the similarities, what are the differences? Obviously you do both, and the way you're talking, you're just kind of like, I don't even want to do video, but I do, and you make dope ass videos. So it's kind of like, what I want to know, the similarities and the differences. What aspects of music carry over into the video making, and the video making into the music, and the correlations and things like that.
yeah, 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 yeah. You know, dude, I do love video. I love video. I love doing video because video is like musically you're saying something, and then with video you're showing them. It's just like when you put the two of them together, it's just like, especially nowadays with the way people are like consuming content, it's like it's almost like you have to have them both. But you're to your question, like what are the similarities? It's that anytime I walk on a film set as a director or as a DP, director of photography, I'm always, you look at the space, you look at the talent that you have, actors, or if it's a music video, the artists, and you kind of feel the pulse. Like there's kind of like there's just a natural kind of metronome pull there, and everything is about just surrendering to what that pulse is, right? And it's a lot like magic in the sense that whenever you get musicians together, all musicians know where the two count is. Like we all know where that two count is. We all know where that four count is. And it's just, it can be people who've never worked together a day in their lives, but all of a sudden it's like, boom, there it is.
Yep.
There it is. It's the same with film. It's just you kind of surrender to what the thing wants to be, and you kind of just feel the ebb and flow of what it is, and then you just like, and that's literally it. You just fucking vibe out with the shit. So there's a lot of similarities to it, right? Like you just, and as a musician though, I'm far more aware of my internal clock and my internal metronome, what and that ultimately helps me to decide what jobs to take on. It's like if you've got a client or you got a job that feels like it's like a dun, 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 but you're very much like and there are instances where it can overlap, like that quarter beat and the dotted eighth.
So
It's
there's
like
a rhythm to the art of video making as well.
there really is, and it's just like the best people who I've worked with in film, they're musicians as well. And it's like when you are working with other musicians in film, it's just everybody feels it. They just feel that pull. It's just like he starts doing this, and the other person starts doing that, and it's just like everybody knows and feels it, and there's a vibe there, and we just sail out on that shit.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities, even in editing though too, because a lot of the programs, the editors are a lot like DAWs. A lot of the same hotkeys and
Right.
things like that follow over, and yeah, so it's almost like the two are really seriously made to go together. Like it just is.
So do you have a crew that you work with? You got like basically a band that you work with when you make your videos?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've slowly but surely, fortunately, I've been doing it for a minute, so I finally have kind of I've arrived at an echelon where it's like I've got people now that I trust who come out with me on every gig,
So,
and whenever I can, whenever it's a job that kind of allows you the opportunity to hire your friends.
yeah.
Some jobs are like there's only enough really for you to do the thing, or it doesn't warrant an entire crew to do. But yeah, I've got a crew of people, of trusted people who I do the thing with.
Nice. So Obviously following you on Instagram, I've seen a lot of your videos, your short films, everything you've done. And I wrote two names, and I just want to know if I'm close. Obviously, Tarantino and Scorsese, and I don't know, are they any influence on you? Who are your influences? I just see aesthetics in your style, just even lettering of your visuals, and I just Tarantino kind of popped out, obviously for me, obvious for me,
Mhm.
but I don't know who influences you in that aspect.
I think really all of them kind of do to certain degrees. I am I've heard Tarantino a lot, and the interesting thing though too, when I was marketing my music videos for my band.
Hmm.
Well, when you're silly side story, but like when you're marketing like your music, you always have to it asks you for the most part what artists you're like so
Hmm.
that you can kind of marketing to
Right.
that audience. Well, the problem with doing that is that like you have to imagine it as like a it's like a water slide in a theme park, right? The more people who get into this fucking line, the longer the shit's gonna be. The longer it's gonna take for your stuff to kind of get down to the water. But if you start looking at what like the Venn diagram is of what your musical offerings or what your artistic offerings are, like where does this cross over?
Right.
For me, for our music videos that we we're pushing, they felt very Tarantino. So instead of marketing to bands that sounded like us, like the Black Pumas or Tame Impala or Childish Gambino or any of the things that we felt like we were kind of close to, instead of trying to market to them,
Yeah.
we figured out what the Venn diagram was, and you start marketing to these other people, right? And you're starting to see that your click through rate is a lot less, So you're going from like 16 cents per click down to like, 4 cents and sometimes 2 cents when it's really good. But like, so that's a weird side story. But to answer your question with regard to like the directors who've kind of like influenced me, they're stylistically I do have an appreciation for Tarantino, but really I'm interested in a lot of old French films and things like that. I do like Spike Lee's earlier things. Um, I like a mainly a lot of like obscure French stuff.
Yeah.
Is like what kind of like really tickles my fancy. But I hear often enough that my stuff is very much Tarantino or Scorsese, especially with some of his angles,
Hmm.
Scorsese's angles.
Exactly.
But definitely Tarantino with regard to the typography, font, and then color,
Yep.
the way that I use color. But
Cool. So I
yeah.
was right. Good. And to me, that's just like asking, like, I'm in a punk band. Oh, okay. Who did you like? You like Bad Brains? You like Minor Threat? It's all the same shit to me. I appreciate it as well. I love art. I love all of it. I love graffiti artists. I love painters. I love people that make film. Filmmakers, and I love all of it. I respect all of it. And I see myself in those things in a way. That's why I like it, and that's why I create what I create in the style that I create. And it's just all cyclical for all of us, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into the music, man. Um, like I said, I always ask the artists, give me some influences. 3 songs, kind of just from the beginning, from the get go, midpoint, and then later. You gave me three songs. I put them kind of in in timely fashion, because you picked Nat King Cole, so I put him first, and then Jimi Hendrix, and then Radiohead, just in a in a chromatic um, order. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna play Nat King Cole first, Nature Boy. Let's go. See, right when I heard it, it already sounded cinematic to me. So I was like, all right, I get that. I get that.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, a magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
Yeah. Damn, I'm almost gonna cry. So why that song, man? Like I said, to me, it caught me very like cinematic. I was like, ugh. And you know, I know who Nat King Cole is. Obviously, I mean, I grew up listening, you know, hearing a lot of Motown, a lot of oldies, a lot of, you know, platters and all that, you know. And Nat King Cole definitely, but he's just a crooner, man.
Dude, yeah, it's just when I was a kid, my mother and my grandmother, the only thing that they agreed on was those old black and white films. And I remember on Sundays, you know, there would be one kind of in the background on the television, just kind of going. And I remember all of those types of songs, those Sinatra songs. And I remember that was the only time in my house that it was quiet. You know, people weren't fighting, they weren't bickering, and it was just the gentle hum of the television and those those performances. You know, like my grandmother um, would put on vinyl, and we would listen to Nat King Cole. We would listen to Al Green, and it was only on a Sunday, and it was that weird kind of feeling where, like, you know, you could see like the dust motes kind of floating through the air through the rays of the light, and then like just that TV being on and it being quiet. And I would just, it was such a comforting nostalgia that it's like it stays with me even still. Like even anytime I hear any of those types of songs with the most interesting chord progressions though too. Like, you know, from, you know, we're all musicians. So when you're listening to that, you're realizing that like they're just taking something and they're just it's so wild to me that they had the capacity and the freedom to make things like that. Like right now, when we go to make music, we're always thinking about like, you know, for the most part, we don't really move out in the modes too much. But like, just they did, and they were just making shit. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they were just that. How do you not listen to something like that and realize that that was art? And they didn't, all of that was one take. There was no like, all right,
Yep.
we're gonna track the flute here
Yep.
and we'll copy and paste it down. It was like, fuck no.
All the mics on in the room, and that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And just, that is so wild to me. So that's why that shit, like stuff like that, is just, and yes, it is so cinematic,
Yeah.
so cinematic. So it's just,
It seems like nature to me, you know, when I hear something like that. It's very just being outside and just like probably a starry night with the full moon and you're just sitting there like all starry-eyed and just like, wow. You know, this is amazing.
It's just the kind of shit that just reminds you that art exists, right? That's not the type of shit that you'd be bumping at a stoplight somewhere, windows rolled down. Definitely fucking not. But for any artist of any medium, when you look back at the films of that time, when you look at the music of that time, you realize that it wasn't always done with it wasn't always the objective wasn't always so obvious that it was to make money. A lot of it was just like, we're making art, we're doing something different. And so I look back on the music and the films of that time, and it's just feel awe and awe of it, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Cool. Well, next, you brought him up earlier, but Mr. Hendrix picked
Let's
Foxy
do it.
Lady. Let's go.
You know you a cute little heartbreaker. Foxy. Yeah. And you know you a sweet little lovemaker. Foxy. I wanna take you home. Yeah. I won't do you no harm. No. You got to be all mine. All mine. Ooh, foxy lady. Foxy. Foxy. Now, I see you. I'm down on the sea. Oh, Foxy. You make me wanna get up and scream. Foxy. Oh, baby, listen now. I made up my mind. I'm tired of wasting all my precious time. You got to be all mine, Foxy lady. Here I come.
All right. So, why that song in particular? Because that's Hendrix,
Dude,
baby. You know,
that's
everybody
fucking
knows Hendrix.
serious, man. Hendrix is like, I think a lot of people will never really understand like the level of musicality that was like really coming from that man musically, you know.
Not a very
I'm
good singer. You know, not your traditional, you know, like,
definitely, but you know, and it didn't fucking matter though.
yeah. It's got
That
feels, man. It's got mad feels.
so much, man. That cat was just like swinging for the fences every single time, and it's like, you know, musically he was doing something like his playing style though too was just so fucking interesting. Like when you really start kind of like looking at it, it's like he's hanging the thumb over
Hmm.
uh,
Big old
um
banana fingers, man.
that fucking shit, boy. And it's a wild thing that he would play his rhythm section and his riffs all together.
Hmm.
So he was kind of sandwiched them together. So it was such an interesting technique, and I studied it for a long time there. A music mentor of mine, who his name was Joe Cotton. He played with like all kind of bands, Temptations. He played with lots of different bands and stuff like that from that time. Magic Man, he just did a lot of stuff, and he was the one who started teaching me how to play like that. And you start looking at it, and you start realizing that Hendrix was playing a lot of R&B stuff, but he was playing it with distortion. He was playing it a lot faster, and it was. But he was playing. He was explaining to me though, like when you're looking at the guitars for James Brown's bands or Al Green's bands, he would show me. He was like, "You've got the rhythm section. They're playing this chord here, right? They're playing this kind of like they're playing like a minor seven to a minor nine chord, right? They're playing that, and then he was like the rhythm, the riff section. The guys who are playing the riffs or the flutes or whatever, they're playing this thing right here. And he says Hendrix took both of them and just did it. He would hang his thumb around the back, play the bass note either once or twice, and then because sonically we were so used to hearing the completion of that idea, we never took into consideration that two separate things were happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing it. It was so fantastic. And the thing that I appreciated the most about Hendrix was throughout the years of doing all of the stuff with like guitar pedals and stuff like that. And I would always run into people who were always searching for his tone and trying to get this, and different pedal manufacturers, amp manufacturers, things like that, trying to get that exact tone. But when you watch any of the films from Hendrix from that time, you would see the Marshall half stacked
Mm-hmm.
amp, and what he would do is he would just walk by him and run his hands across the knobs, indiscriminately turning them up. It didn't matter. So for all of those, I just thought it was so funny that there was all of these people who was just chasing that tone down, and he himself never really cared.
Yeah, he's just cranking the shit out of the amps and just overdriving everything, and a roto vibe and a wah, and that's
Yeah,
it. You know,
yeah. So it was just like a univibe, yeah, a
a
univibe,
univibe. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was like, yeah. So shit like that has always kind of stayed with me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's all in the fingers. You know, every guitarist I ever talked to is like, you know, how do you make your guitar sound that way? It's the fingers, man. It's how you play, and it's your hands.
One,
It's not the amps. It's not the pedals. You know.
it is. You're 100% right. I've recently like switched to from a big pedal board full of just a bunch of effect pedals to a Helix, and it was just mainly because it was like band practices. I'm tired of lugging around a 60 pound excuse me pedal board.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it sounds good. You're good. Drink some water.
ooh
The deep one.
yeah, wow, yes, um, sounds good. It even sorry,
No, you're
yes.
good. You're good.
So yeah, switching from the pedal board, switching from the pedal board to the Helix, it still sounds like me, So
Yeah, it's just, you know, I know with a lot of digital technology, you know, I've been using processors, floor processors for since the 90s, you know. Like I bought some back in the day, you know, one Digitech stuff, and you know, I fell in love with it when I used to use really simple pedals, and then they came out with this, it was called the RP1, and it had, you know, it had compression, it had EQ, it had all the effects, and it sounded good. You know, it had some digital processing in it or something, but and then there were versions that came out after that, and they just never sounded as good as that first one. But now, you know, everything's like modeling. They're modeling the amps, they're modeling the pedals, they're modeling the gear, you know. So I think it's even gotten pretty damn close. Like when I play guitar, I run everything through my iPad. You know, I have virtual gear. You know, I use apps, and it sounds good. I think it sounds great in headphones. You know, sometimes you can't tell the difference. Depends on the ears that are listening to it.
yeah, it always sounds like
Right.
Um, so it's like the digital stuff and modeling. It really has kind of come a long way.
For
So
sure.
it's like I don't know. It
Yeah.
still sounds. I'll still prefer a real pedal board in a studio for writing, just because there's a little bit more flexibility with the individual sounds. But
Yeah,
yeah, the Helix has way better routing options. So
exactly.
it's just there's
Easier.
some crazy.
Convenience, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's play the next one. One of my favorites. Let's go. Radiohead. Creep. Everybody knows this song.
When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. You float like a feather in a beautiful world. I wish I was special. You're so fucking special. But I'm a creep. I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. I want you to notice when I'm not around. You're so fucking special. I wish I was special. But I'm a creep. I'm a widow.
I remember seeing that video. I think I was in 8th grade. And being obsessed with that song, man. Jeez. Can't believe it's been that long. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude, that fucking I came into that song so late in life.
Okay.
Um, I think so. That song came out like 92 or something,
Something
92,
like that.
93,
Yeah.
something like that. Um, because I started doing playing guitar in college. Before that, I don't think I had heard any or listened to any rock music, especially rock music from the 90s. So when I first heard Radiohead, it was like 2000 and something. I don't know if I can remember,
Hmm.
but well after that had come out. And I had never heard anything like that in my entire life.
Wow.
So, so hearing that, it was just so interesting. It was so far from other things that I had been listening to, and even musically where I was reaching. But because I was trying the to implement more effects pedals and things like that, and
Yeah.
ambient type things, the natural progression of that kind of led me to Radiohead. And it was, yeah, it was an interesting and weird time.
Are
So
you a
it was,
big fan now? Like, do you
oh
listen to
yeah,
other
like
stuff? Yeah. Okay. Nice.
all this.
What's your favorite album? Do you have an album that you like most?
I mean, all of them are great. I mean, one that like I just always listen to is In Rainbows.
Nice.
It's just a nice like vibe kind of thing, and it's
For
like
sure.
for people who aren't Radiohead fans or something like that, like that's always kind of like that's one of those kind of gateway ones where
Yeah.
it's like you can trick them into it, and I'm like, what is this? And you're
Yeah.
like, it's Radiohead, bitch. And they're like, oh no, like I gotcha.
It's later. It's later in their career. After midpoint. But my favorite album is The Bends. I love that album so much. Like
That's great.
it's just got like bang. It's every song's like a hit. And I love that album. So,
Yeah.
but I learned. Well, I heard of them from MTV, obviously from that song that made them popular. But then the Bends came out after that, and I never listened to it. I didn't get into it until I was older, like in my early 20s. And then I heard OK Computer first, and that one was like I had a friend in another band. He's like, bro, you listen to radio? I was like, well, yeah, I like radio. He's like, you heard this album? And I was like, show me what's up. I think we got high or something, and he was just bumping it. I was like, dude, that shit's the shit. Like it was crazy. But then I listened to everything after that, and then I remember when Kid A came out. I remember everything after that, and I was like, all right. But the Bends to me is more just rock, not as heavy as this album, Pablo Honey, but it was a little more melodic and more, I love Tom York. Tom York's the fucking man. So all day.
Agreed.
Cool. Well, let's get into your music. So your band is called Boy Indigo. How many members are in this band? What's the setup for the band?
For a long time there, a lot of it was me, and then my buddy John Takanikos on keys, and Chelsea Baker.
Okay.
And so that's who the three of us kind of did all of those songs. And Kevin Kinsella from a band called Poindexter, he shows up on as a feature on a lot of the stuff we do. He plays that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on all these. So he's a vocalist, yeah? Yeah.
He's a saxophone. No, he does
Oh.
he does he plays saxophone. There are a few tracks that I've produced for him, and he puts me on as a feature for those songs, but I just helped produce them. Yeah.
Nice. All right, cool. So this is the first one, Boy Indigo, I'm Alone. Let's go.
Darling, I can kiss you.
So dope, dude. That's so great. So do you do all the the arranging of everything?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, so did all of that. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
So smooth, dude. It's so chill, super chill.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, man.
Cool. The next one is called Look Inside Me. Let's go.
You think that you're safe down that rabbit hole. You think I won't give chase
So anything in particular about these songs that you picked for any particular reason?
Well, a lot of the songs, it's probably because of all of the songs that we've released,
Mhm.
I think that there are only really three that I've actually sang on.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of them were, for the most part, instrumentals and things like that. So,
Nice.
these were the only ones that I sang on. And I think the other one is one where I did the spoken word poetry thing,
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna play it.
we do, yeah, so I was never the most confident
For sure.
with my singing, so it made sense to still, we wanted to release things, so a lot of this stuff was instrumentals. So we're working on an album right now that obviously is nothing but singing.
Nice.
So it's yeah, so pick those songs because like those are really the only ones with my voice on it.
I definitely dig the style, your vocal delivery. It fits. It gives it that kind of soulful, like kind of like Al Greenish, like you were saying
Yeah.
earlier. I
Yeah.
heard Tom York or a little bit of Radiohead in that one too, kind of. That's sick, dude. It's dope. Like I like soft vocals. Who did I hear? One of my favorite. You've heard of Deftones, right? I mean, who
Yeah,
hasn't? Of course.
of
Chino
course.
Moreno. He's one of my biggest influences. And it's one time I heard him say, like, I when I sing, like, I try and sing like a female. I try and sound like a female. Like most of my favorite vocalists are female vocalists. And he's like, I just like the vulnerability, and and I was just like, I could dig that. I don't want to like and that's how I kind of deliver as well when I sing. It's like I like that. All my favorite things that I like to sing to are mostly probably female vocals. Like for
Yeah.
whatever reason, it just sounds soothing. And so well when I sing softly anyway. So um, cool. Yeah, this one is Alone, Edgar Allan Poe. So this one you said is spoken.
From childhood's hour, I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to joy at the same tone. And all that I have loved, I have loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of the most stormy life was drawn from every depth of good and ill, the mystery which binds me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in the autumn tint of gold, from the lightning in the sky, as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm, from the cloud that took the form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view.
Damn, that's so sick. That was awesome, man. What inspires that? Because I think of Jim Morrison's album where he's reading his poetry and there's music right behind it. That's just what came to mind off the bat right there.
Yeah, dude, like that. That's definitely part of the influence. I love Jim Morrison. God, I love that dude. He's so wild to me.
Oh,
The whole thing really was like when we were making the videos, the music videos and stuff like that. I wanted something. We were working on an album at the time, and I wanted to make something visually that looked like a trailer to a movie from the 70s that's never been released.
okay.
So we made a film, a quick little teaser for a film, and we made that music for it. And then we found that we got that poem, which is an Edgar Allan Poe poem, and we put it to it. So the whole thing was like, you know, and we never pushed. I never pushed the video. I should push the video.
Yeah.
Like it was like, you know, the song was done, and then we were like, let's go ahead and just kind of put this out there. So
Nice.
we just kind of put that out there. It was supposed to be on this album that we're doing now, but you know, it was one of those things where it was like it felt right to just kind of push it out when we pushed it out.
For sure. Well, I definitely love your style, man. You've got great style in every aspect, and I definitely dig it. And I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for sitting and chopping it up with me, man. Yeah. So where can they find you, man?
Well, they can find us at the normal places, you know, on Instagram. So Boy Indigo .music, YouTube Boy Indigo, Spotify Boy Indigo, TikTok. We're at all of the places. Instagram is probably the place where we're at the most because we do a lot of short films too, collaborative short films. We do all of the music for those. So people can find us there. Just find us there and reach out, and you know, we want to connect with you.
Dope. Well, thank you for your time, brother. I really appreciate you. This was great. I've been kind of waiting for this, so I was grateful that you came back to me, and it was awesome, man. Thank you for your time. Much love and respect to anyone out there listening, anyone paying attention. This has been your Blue Dreamer broadcast. As always, I'm your humble host, Dr. I. And until next time, stay tuned, stay connected. Peace.